It's 6 p.m. Cairo local time, and it's the English news bulletin. This is Sahar Al-Talawi, starting up with the main headlines. President Sisi speaks over phone with the British Prime Minister on the regional issues. President Sisi greets Egyptian and Arab Muslim peoples marking the new Hijri year. And Spain PM slams the welcome back. The news in full. President Sisi and the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer today expressed their comfort over the ceasefire between the Israeli and the Iranian sides, pressing for a return to the negotiations to peacefully settle the conflict and the refrain from using the military power to preserve the regional stability. And in a phone call the President received from the British Prime Minister, the two sides stressed the importance of benefiting from the relevant calm currently prevailing to resume a ceasefire agreement in Gaza to immediately end the humanitarian suffering for its people. And they also called on the international community to shoulder its responsibility for reaching a fair and comprehensive solution to the Palestinian cause based on the two-state solution. The head of the state and British Prime Minister further expressed keenness to boost the bilateral ties in different fields, particularly on the economic level, with the Starmer asserting that the President Sisi responded to an invitation he received from the Britain King to visit London. The President, in return, invited the British Prime Minister to visit Egypt for more coordination. And President Sisi today greeted the Egyptian and the Arab Islamic people marking the new Hijri year via his social media account. President Sisi noted that the notable occasion will be an immortal symbol of the diligence, patience, and the sacrifice for the sake of the right owners of the lantern that guides people towards peace and stability. The President also expressed many good and blessed returns of the occasion. And Egypt's First Lady, Mrs. Intisar al-Sisi, today greeted Egyptians and the Islamic nation marking the new Hijri year. Via her social media account, the First Lady wished the new year brings goodness and blessings to all peoples and prayed to God to preserve Egypt and its people from all evils. And the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said that the Gaza Strip was in a catastrophic situation of genocide and urged the European Union to immediately suspend its cooperation deal with the Israeli Occupation Authority. And speaking to the reporters ahead of an EU summit in Brussels, Sanchez mentioned a recent human rights report by the EU's diplomatic service, which found the indications that the Israeli occupation forces were breaching the human rights obligation under the cooperation deal with of the basis for the trade and ties. And after more than 20 months of unprecedented aggression by groups, to say that Gaza's population of more than 2 million face famine-like conditions. And moving to Iran, where Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei said today that his country would respond to any future U.S. attacks by the striking American military bases in the Middle East. In his televised remarks since a ceasefire was reached between Iran and Israel, Khamenei said that any attack on Iran would come to a great cost, and noted that Iran had fired on the largest U.S. base in the region after Washington joined the Israeli strikes. Khamenei added also that the United States had gained nothing from its attacks during Iran's 12-day conflict with Israel that saw the nuclear sites hit. And in Vienna, Director General of International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, said that his top priority is getting his inspectors back to Iran and nuclear facilities to assess the impact of the U.S. and Israeli military strikes and verify its stocks enriched uranium. Earlier, Iran's parliament approved a bill to suspend the cooperation with IAEA, the UN's nuclear watchdog, after Israel and the United States bombarded Iran's nuclear sites with the aim of preventing Tehran from acquiring acquiring a nuclear weapon. Tehran, meanwhile, denies seeking the nuclear weapons and says that NIA resolution this month declaring Iran in a breach of the non-proliferation obligations paved the way for Israel's attacks. And China hosted the defense ministers from Iran and Russia for a meeting on its eastern seaside city of Diego today, coinciding with the summit of the NATO countries in Europe that agreed to boost the military spending. Beijing also hosted the 10-member Shanghai Cooperation Organization to push forward the strengthening collaboration between its members. And Beijing also hosted the 10-member Shanghai Cooperation, and during the event, Russia defense minister said that the current military and the political situation in the world remains difficult and shows signs of further deterioration.
Towns and villages by a major river in China's Jingguanlei have submerged as floodwaters from province upstream roared into the mountainous region, with the expected landfall of a tropical cyclone later on Thursday compounding disaster risk. The massive flooding that overwhelmed the cities of Runjing and Konjing in Zhejiang province on Tuesday has spread downstream to other parts of southwest China. The Zhuangjing township of Melon was the worst hit, state media reported on Thursday, with floodwaters at their peak more than 4 meters above what was considered safe. Urban areas typically have stronger capacity to respond to floods, he said, but not all cities are equally equipped. On Thursday, the Guizhou city, located at the confluence of 3 rivers, was hit by a flood on a scale that Chinese meteorologists said could only happen once in 50 years, and at the speed of that shocked its 300,000 residents. The flow rate of one section of the Liu River in Rongjing surged to 11,800 cubic meters per second, the equivalent of nearly 5 Olympic-sized swimming pools. That was more than 80 times the average rate of flow. At least 6 people were killed. The tropical depression made landfall on China's island province of Hainan early on Thursday and later again in Guangdong on the mainland, bringing more rain to a region still reeling from Typhoon Yunyu 2 weeks ago. Extreme storms and severe flooding, which meteorologists link to climate change, increasingly pose major challenges for Chinese officials as they threaten to overwhelm aging flood defenses, displace millions of people, and cause billions of dollars in economic losses.
And the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has expanded the department's authority to continue extraordinary cash management measures to keep from breaching the federal debt ceiling by nearly a month until July 24th. And Bessent said in a letter to congressional leaders that he had determined the debt issuance suspension period previously scheduled to expire on Friday needed to continue. And the declaration allows the Treasury to suspend the funding from government pension and retrieve health care funds that are not needed to pay immediate benefits. And the world stocks notched their second record high in 3 days today as a report that Donald Trump was planning to choose the next Federal Reserve chief early fueled fresh bets on the U.S. rate cuts. U.S. stock index futures rose, signaling indexes were nearing the record peaks. European shares also edged higher, with the German DAX surging 0.7%, Paris CAC 40 edging 0.1% higher, and Britain's FTSE 100 also gaining 0.1%. Elsewhere in Asia, Tokyo's Nikkei jumped 1.65% to its highest level since January, and the MC's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan finished slightly higher too. And in the commodities, oil prices rose today as the traders kept a nervous eye on the Iran-Israel ceasefire. Brent crude futures rose 0.37% to $67.93 a barrel, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude gained 0.45% to $65.21. And the crude prices, which tanked Monday and Tuesday after the ceasefire was announced, climbed for a second day through gains were capped by possibility that OPEC and other key producers will lift output.